There was a time when anyone would be scared and tremble upon hearing the name of George Soros. Also known as the most dangerous man in financial history, Soros wasn't just a billionaire.
This man is a carnivore of the first order.
Take 81,000 to buy. Buy 48,000. Buy him 69,000 WION.
The Prime Minister of Malaysia. The region spent 40 years trying to build up its economy, and along comes a moron like Soros.
A few words from Soros were enough to cause panic selling that fueled the crash.
And the whole country falls apart.
He was one of the richest individuals in the entire history of mankind. With Malaysia on the brink of collapse, Tun Dr. Mahathir Mohamad made a decision that shocked the world. He rejected the IMF's $17 billion USD bailout and its harsh terms, opting instead to take a defiant stand against the forces of global finance. This was not just an economic decision, it was a declaration of sovereignty, a refusal to let Malaysia be dictated by foreign powers. Mahathir introduced a series of bold and unprecedented measures. The ringgit was pegged at 3.8 to the US dollar, effectively stabilizing its value and shielding it from further speculative attacks. Strict capital controls were imposed to stop the outflow of funds, preventing foreign speculators from destabilizing the currency any further. These measures were risky, unconventional, and flew in the face of global financial norms, but Mahathir was determined to protect Malaysia at all costs. To many, these actions were a gamble. Western financial institutions criticized Mahathir's approach, warning that Malaysia would isolate itself from the global economy. George Soros himself dismissed these measures as desperate and ineffective. Yet for Malaysia, this was a fight for survival, a fight to preserve its people's livelihoods and its economic independence. The effects of these policies were immediate. The ringgit stabilized, giving businesses a much-needed lifeline to plan their operations without the fear of further devaluation. Malaysia's banking system, though battered, avoided a complete collapse as capital controls prevented a full-blown liquidity crisis. The stock market, which had lost nearly 80% of its value, began to show signs of recovery as confidence slowly returned. While the IMF advised Malaysia to cut government spending, Mahathir did the exact opposite. He doubled down on public expenditure, using government resources to stimulate the economy and reignite growth. One of his most surprising moves was to announce bonuses for government servants, ensuring that morale remained high and people had money to spend. This was a shocking move at a time when other nations were slashing public sector wages under IMF pressure. Singapore, known for its strategic and calculated financial strategies, was taken aback by Mahathir's defiance. The tiny island nation, often hailed as an economic miracle, watched closely as Malaysia charted a course that seemed both daring and reckless. For Singapore, this was uncharted territory, a leader not only resisting the IMF, but actively challenging global economic orthodoxy. To boost Malaysia's visibility and attract tourists, Mahathir turned to Petronas, Malaysia's oil and gas giant, and tasked them with bringing Formula One to the country. This wasn't just about sports. It was a calculated effort to place Malaysia on the world map and draw international attention to its resilience. The Sepang International Circuit, built in record time, became a symbol of Malaysia's ambition and determination. Mahathir's creativity didn't stop there. He asked his ministers to develop a national branding logo, promoting Malaysian best products. This initiative encouraged local businesses to rise to global standards while fostering national pride. To further stimulate consumer spending, he launched the Mega Sale campaign, a nationwide event that slashed prices and enticed both locals and tourists to spend, effectively boosting the retail sector during a time of crisis. One of Mahathir's most visionary projects was the establishment of University Utara Malaysia, WION, in the rural state of Kedah. Unlike traditional urban-centric universities, WION was designed to pioneer human capital development and business management education in the northern region. This move wasn't just about education, it was about decentralizing economic opportunities and stimulating growth in less developed areas, proving that rural Malaysia had a role to play in the country's recovery. Each of these initiatives defied the IMF's recommendations. While the global financial community expected Malaysia to contract and retrench, Mahathir's strategy focused on expansion and innovation. His goal was clear: to keep Malaysians spending, working, and believing in their country's future. It was a bold gamble that few leaders would have dared to make. Mahathir's defiance also carried a symbolic weight. He showed the world that Malaysia wasn't just a victim of the crisis, but a nation willing to fight back on its own terms. While other nations in the region implemented IMF-imposed austerity measures, leading to widespread public unrest, Malaysia maintained relative stability by preserving its social safety nets and giving people hope during one of the darkest periods in the nation's history. The results of Mahathir's unconventional strategy began to show. The ringgit stabilized, the banking sector avoided complete collapse, and industries slowly started to recover. The government's initiatives, from promoting tourism to supporting local businesses, helped create a sense of unity and purpose, which was essential for rebuilding a shattered economy. Each of these initiatives defied the IMF's recommendations. While the IMF proposed raising interest rates to combat inflation and stabilize the currency, Mahathir went the other way, slashing interest rates to encourage borrowing. This move allowed businesses to access affordable loans, restart their operations, and create jobs. As businesses flourished, employment rose, and more money began circulating in the economy, creating a ripple effect of recovery and growth. This strategy, bold and unconventional, completely stunned the IMF and defied every expectation of how a nation should respond to a financial crisis. Through his boldness and refusal to bow to external pressures, Mahathir not only shielded Malaysia from further devastation, but also cemented his legacy as a leader who stood firm against overwhelming odds. His actions during the crisis became a blueprint for how smaller nations could resist external exploitation and chart their own paths to recovery. The 1997 Asian financial crisis left its mark on Southeast Asia, but Tun Dr. Mahathir Mohamad's bold moves shocked the world, and even George Soros himself. The unorthodox strategies employed by Mahathir forced Soros and other money speculators to halt their attacks not just on Malaysia, but on other nations like Indonesia, South Korea, and Thailand. What had started as a relentless wave of economic sabotage came to an abrupt pause, leaving Southeast Asia to pick up the pieces. The damage across the region was uneven. South Korea, though badly hit, managed to recover relatively quickly, thanks to a bailout package from the IMF. However, the story was starkly different for Thailand and Indonesia, where the wounds of the crisis still linger. These nations, burdened with IMF loans, continue to grapple with the long-term consequences of the crisis. Their economies have yet to fully regain the momentum they had before the storm, and the cost of servicing IMF debts remains a heavy burden to this day. For Malaysia, Mahathir's refusal to bow to the IMF marked a turning point. His decisive actions not only shielded the nation from further harm, but also sent a message to the world. Malaysia would not be bullied into submission. The results of his bold leadership extended beyond Malaysia's borders, offering hope to other developing nations that they, too, could resist the overwhelming forces of global finance. This confrontation may very well have been George Soros's last major speculative attack. Having left his company to his son, Soros shifted his focus toward philanthropy in the years that followed. The 1997 crisis became a defining chapter in his controversial career, cementing his reputation as a financial speculator capable of influencing the fate of entire nations. As for Mahathir Mohamad, his tenure as Prime Minister came to an end in 2003 when he handed the reins to his successor. His legacy as a leader who defied the odds and stood up to one of the most powerful men in global finance endures to this day. Today, Anwar Ibrahim, Mahathir's former protege, leads Malaysia. The nation Mahathir helped save during its darkest economic hour is now navigating new challenges under Anwar's leadership. The legacy of the 1997 Asian financial crisis serves as both a cautionary tale and an inspiration for the resilience of nations like Malaysia, which managed to rise from the ashes of economic turmoil.